It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Toronto Six digital content producer, Nathan Fernandes. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start working in professional sports?
For me, it wasn't really professional sports. I wanted to work in a position where I could help people and tell stories. And it just worked out for me that I ended up in a women's pro team where they do need people to tell their stories and create stuff for them. So it just ended up being in sports. So I'm pretty happy about it.
How did you know that you wanted to work for the women's professional hockey team as a digital content producer?
So like I said before, women's sports, they don't have as much exposure as the bigger men's teams do. And sometimes as a women's team, they're not able to afford to produce these top level content or consistent content. So I wanted to work for them so I can provide that sort of outlet for them so they can get some more exposure and be, well, maybe not equivalent to the men's teams, but at least have a stepping stone where people now get to see this team on a consistent basis. So,
what is the life and the day of the life in a digital content producer on the WML NHL team?
yeah, so pretty much I wake up in the morning and for me, I think of a lot of ideas. I'm constantly thinking of ideas of how we can improve our content. So I'll start in the morning, I'll make a list, I'll go and do a really deep dive into all my ideas. And then I'll talk to Digit. Digit's our president and also the head coach. And we talk about like, oh, what kind of content and what ideas work and not. And then from there, it'll slowly get pushed to the social media manager and then the marketing manager. So basically, my day, majority of my day is thinking of an idea. And then finally, once we have the content that's filmed and edited, that's when I go in and start producing the actual final product to go up on our channel. So yeah, majority, like most of my day is just thinking of ideas.
Do you get, while you're thinking of some of your ideas, do you get like inspiration from other teams? So like, for example, the Buffalo Beauties or another WNHL team might have did something that you were like, okay, let's see if that will work.
Yeah, so I do look in the NWHL, we have the Metropolitan Riveters and Buffalo Buttes who do have a pretty high social following. So we always aspire to be at that same level or maybe even a little bit higher. We're always looking to see what they're doing. And personally, I'm a pretty big soccer fan. So I take inspiration from soccer teams and not soccer teams here, but soccer teams in Europe. They have massive following. So I know there's a team called Paris Saint-Germain, And a lot of their social media marketing and social media content revolves around the club being fashionable. So they're always doing these cool photo shoots in jerseys and gear, and they're always producing content that I feel is catered to the younger generation. And I think that's so important because the next generation of fans is who's going to be your fans for the next 10, 15 years. So that's what I really try to model my stuff after.
What are some of your roles and responsibility as a digital content producer?
So like I said before, it's just thinking of ideas, brainstorming. I'm always critiquing ideas as well. And then once we have a good idea, we'll go talk to the players and talk to the rest of the team, seeing how we can do it. And then it's just directing and filming and getting the actual piece of content done. And that's probably the most difficult part, because you got to coordinate with all these players who have jobs and have places to go after practice. So yeah, that's pretty much all my stuff there.
What is a typical game day like as a digital content producer?
So normally, without COVID, I would be at the games producing content or filming, taking photos. But unfortunately, due to COVID and with the team playing in the bubble, we weren't able to go to the bubbles, our social media team. So we would wake up in the morning, we'd talk to some of the coaches who were there at the bubble with the team, and they would be filming our content for us. So Coach Spiros, we have equipment manager Sid. We would talk to them before saying, can you get this for me? Can you get this for me? And then they would send it back. And it's just watching the games and seeing what I tend to watch games, not like for enjoyment. I also watch keeping in mind, like, oh, what clips can I take from this game? Or what can I kind of turn into some social content piece? So I remember, like, for our first goal, Lindsay Eastwood scored. I came up with this TikTok idea, and it ended up getting over 100K views on TikTok, which was awesome. But if you're not really watching a game in that perspective, you won't really you might brush over things like that. So that's pretty much game day for me right now. Hopefully, when we do get to play in our arena, that's when the job will change. So
Who are some of the most popular people that somebody will know that you have done content for?
So I've done a bunch of graphic design outside of my job right now. I've done a bunch of graphic design for players from the Canadian Premier League. So that's soccer. So Maury Donor, Joseph DiChiara, like Kyle Porter, Roger Thompson, all York United players. So they're a CPL team based in York, here in Toronto. And then for the Toronto Six, I literally just work with all these awesome players every day, and the staff as well. Digit Murphy is one of the most decorated and most successful female coaches in women's hockey history. And just getting to work with her every single day is awesome, because she's a very creative person and so energetic, and it's great to bounce ideas off of her. And it's great to meet with these players. Compared to the men's teams, where players literally play hockey their whole life and they don't really know anything but playing hockey. Whereas these players, they play hockey, but then they have other life experiences as well, because they're working two jobs at the same time. So it's great to kind of work with these kind of players, because you get to learn so much about not just them as players, but as people as well.
What is the process like as the marketing campaign?
So like I said before, it's just thinking of a great idea, and also how can we implement that idea. So we had this idea for this. I don't know if you've seen the video, but the team was going to play in Lake Placid. So we decided to create almost like a trailer, recreating a scene from the movie Miracle on Ice, so that we could compare. So it was like filming that scene, getting Digit to act as Herb Brooks and giving the whole speech. And then from there, it was like, when can we release it so that it gets the most viewership? Or how can we release it that it gets the most viewership? So it's just a lot of planning. I think with marketing and stuff, it's a lot of planning. The actual posting doesn't take that long, but the planning process is just really long. And it's just that finding little details. It's like, how can we make a fan enjoy this video more? If we do something else different.
What is the process of being a marketer campaign?
So with a marketing campaign, it's again finding those little flaws in your initial plan and executing it as well as you can. And then on the first day, so normally our marketing campaigns run a couple weeks. So in that first week, we'll find out a lot of data, find out what people think about our initial release. And then for the second week, we'll try to implement those changes and see how that does amongst the fans. And then from there, it's like in a whole entire campaign, you just find out how fans are reacting to it so you can prepare for the next one.
What is it like whenever you're advertising about the Toronto Sixers on social media?
So when you say advertising, are you talking about like sponsors or just the team in general?
The team in general.
Okay, so when we're trying to market the team, it's again like I take a lot of inspiration from teams all over Europe and especially soccer teams because they have huge followings and they tend to focus on player personalities rather than the entire brand itself. I know that's a big issue, especially in North American sports where they tend to focus on the brand, but if you focus on the players and their personalities, it almost creates this little bond between a fan and the player. So, for example, you might love a player because of the way they play or how many goals they score. But if you know as well that person's a really nice person, or they're funny, or they're just an outgoing person, you're going to love that player even more, and you're going to want to watch and engage with more content with where that player is present. So it's just like that, like finding that, for me especially, finding those personalities and showing them to the world, because normally they wouldn't see the light of day because they'd be just playing hockey and then doing their basic post-game interview, pre-game interview, and that's it. So
what is something that you learn now that you didn't know before becoming a digital marketing?
I learned, especially working for a women's team, I learned a lot about becoming more adaptable. So because these players have second jobs or are not able to come to certain practices because of work or family or related issues, I just learned to become more adaptable. Like before, I used to always worry, like if I didn't get my project done on this certain day, I'd be like freaking out, like, oh, how can I have time for the next project if I don't have the other one done? But I know now that because I can't really rely because some of these players have other commitments, I just know how to change on the spot. So if I'm doing a video with supposed to do a video with one player on one day, if that player is not able to make it, I can switch so easily and find another player to do that with, or just change up the content ever so slightly.
What is some advice that you would give the content producers that are looking to work in women's sports?
For when you're first applying to the job or trying to get a job, just keep trying, keep trying. I know myself, I graduated in COVID year, and I didn't really have that much, a really great internship I was at TSN for like 2 weeks, and then they had to shut down their program. So after that, I was just trying to find an opportunity, and it took me about 10, 15 emails to the Toronto Six staff before I actually got noticed. So I was talking to Digit, and I think the biggest piece of advice I can give you is when you're trying to apply, don't just hand in a job application, pitch yourself. Try to show them why you would be valuable to their organization. What ideas can you bring to the table? That's what people are not really thinking about. So that's what you should think about. Think about how you can provide value to this organization that you're applying to, and just keep working on your craft, because you have to show them value. Otherwise, they probably won't hire you on if you just send in your application. You have to show them why you'd be a good fit for them.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with Toronto Sixes at on social media?
So you can find the Toronto Six on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, even YouTube at the Toronto Six. And then for myself, it's at 11 Nathan F. So that's on Instagram, Twitter. I don't really have much other social media, but just, yeah. So that's 11 Nathan F for myself, and at the Toronto 6 for all their social medias.
Thank you again, Nathan, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Toronto Sixes.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Thank you for having me, and all the best to you in your interviews.
Thank you, and you're welcome. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Nathan, for your interview, and best of luck.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.